Ms. Chairman, ready when you guys are to get the meeting started and do call to order. Okay. Great. If you could just call to order and state the time that this meeting is getting started.
I call to order this meeting on June 9th, it's the 9th, at, what time is it? 06:02 p.m. or 6:02 p.m. or 18:02 p.m.
Then you will proceed to call roll. We only have 2 other members. They would just make, if this was a bigger meeting, once we get our new members, you would just call out every name and people will say present and we'll do roll call. Okay. You can now move us forward to audience participation.
Okay. If anyone in the audience wishes to address the board on any item listed on the agenda, please fill out the audience participation forms located by the east door of the council room. After the form is completed, please hand it to the board secretary. Your request to speak will be given to the chairman, and you will be called upon to speak when the item is discussed.
One sec. Okay. So we'll
Oh,
do the approval.
A motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Go ahead and note that. Are we all in favor?
Yep.
Okay. So we move forward to our next meeting.
Okay,
Item.
so under business 2A, discussion and action regarding the 2025-2026 budget of the donation fund. If you guys could give me just 1 minute to roll that back as we get started on this again. Okay. So for context, it is budget preparation season for the city. Other boards are right now in the process of discussing what itemized items they would like to see in their budget to make recommendations to our finance manager and city council when they are in the process of preparing budgets for 2025 and 2026 fiscal year. Given the history of expenses that the board has, staff would like to present a recommendation for adjusting the totals on the line items of our budget to align with the expected donation revenues of $90,000. So for the year of 2025-2026, we have an anticipated revenue of $90,000 from those donations. Let me go ahead and pass out this additional list of budgets or list of itemized items in the budget that we're proposing. We had to wait this morning for a couple of other details to be confirmed. As you can see, our 2024-2025 budget was accounting for an estimated revenue of $104,630. But based on the expenses so far for this year, we will need to readjust totals, especially for mowing services and the Christmas tree and lights decor, because they are over what what was initially allocated for those items. So staff's recommendation would be to just adjust the totals for those for supplies and potential art in public spaces. We recommend just leaving it unallocated for now, so that we can use whatever extra funds we end up having from donations for that. But for sure, increase the amounts for mowing services and the Christmas tree and Christmas lights. The increase was estimated based on what we are projected to spend for the rest of the year on mowing services, adding a 3%. This is based on the recommendation made by Randy Newsom, our Public Works Director. They are anticipating an increase on the charges for these services for, given all components that are driving prices up at the time. The Christmas tree and Christmas lights, we haven't started yet looking at new quotes. An alternative would also be to decrease maybe the locations that we're getting decorated to control how much we spend, but we can always use whatever amount we don't end up spending for these services for other things that haven't been allocated for. At this point, I will let you guys ask any questions, and this would be a great time to have a discussion over what you would like to see in this budget so that you can make a motion to recommend an itemized budget so that our finance director and city council will take into consideration.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay.
Motion to approve, is that what
You would make a motion to approve to recommend the presented budget by staff.
I approve the recommended budget by staff. Staff's budget.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes. Aye.
Thank you. Okay.
All these receipts are for the budget, right?
Yes, so those are for the expenses that we have
Okay.
so far to this year. I know that during our last meeting, when we talked about banner installation, you guys had inquired about what we had paid in December, so I figured to also include the receipts for what we have paid so far. Some of them I'm about to reference in our next item, so just FYI.
Saginaw's fiscal year starts October 1st, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My brain's in the right.
Ms. Chairman, at this point, I'll let you take us to the next item on our agenda.
Okay, so the next item is 2B, discussion and action regarding the Yard of the Month awarding system.
Let me go ahead and open up those attachments. So during our last meeting, we approved made a motion to award both April nominations, and we had a discussion about confusion regarding the previously approved gift card award structure. So we ended up finalizing through that motion that each winner would get a $50 gift card per month. After our meeting, I did follow up with our city secretary. So that item was titled Discussion and Action for April Nominations. I asked if it would be okay to also include a motion regarding changing the awarding structure. She advised for formalities that we repeat the item and do a motion to finalize the changes that you guys wanted to see on the awarding structure. However, after this first month that we gave out awards, I did have some things that I wanted to bring up for your consideration in regards to the expenses for awards. This month, we did have to allocate more money for yards, forward order. These are technically reusable, so in a couple of days, we'll pick up whatever we installed in the yards from the last winners, and we'll reuse them for the other selected yards. So the $66 you probably won't see that often. The $50 gift card, we ended up having to get it from Chipley Donuts because Elkins and a couple other local businesses unfortunately do not offer gift cards through their institutions. They would only accept gift cards that are like a Visa format that you can use anywhere.
So even, what about like, the nursery or
They do
even,
have gift cards, because somebody gave me one.
I mean, I know Home Depot and Lowe's isn't local, but I mean, if we're awarding for yard of the month, what about Walmart? Because I mean, Walmart has a garden center. So when you think about, if you're wanting to award gift cards so that they can then contribute to their yards, because that's what they're winning it for, then maybe we look at doing like, yeah, the nursery, Home Depot, Lowe's, I mean, even Walmart, because they have a garden center, just some, you know, obviously we wouldn't be able to track that they purchased it, but it's more related to
Yeah.
that. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, we did, well, I drove kind of around Saginaw Boulevard and a couple others, just kind of hitting up like as many places as I could. Given time that I do have to be at the Public Works office for my other job, I couldn't go to every business to make sure that I was covering every point, but because of that, I'm like, we want to, based on our recommendation and what I'm hearing from your discussion, it seems like we're on the same page that we want to have residents, the option, we have to give them the option for them to use this gift card, and Elkins or Home Depot or even Walmart for them to actually be able to use this money for tools or things that they want to use for their yard. So on the recommendation that I had to maybe avoid this from happening and removing a little bit of the, not, I wouldn't say hardship, but just making it a little bit more flexible for staff so that we can just go and purchase a good amount of cards without having to like run to the store for every single month. We could incorporate, based on staff's recommendation, and I'll let you guys discuss after, the increase to a $60 for gift cards, given that Visa cards and those cards that can use anywhere, they do have activation fees. So on top of the $50, you do have to pay sometimes like $4 to $7 depending. If we were to transition to increasing the amount allocated for gift cards and changing it to that format, we also wanted to recommend the consideration of perhaps decreasing the number of winners selected each month, either by limiting it to 2 or potentially splitting up the map that we have on our application form so that it is only divided in 2 parts and therefore only 2 winners are selected per section, or only 1 winner selected per section of the map. For your reference, I'm pulling it up here based on what we have in our form. So we're proposing maybe splitting it in half so that we only have 2 winners tops a month. That would be $60 per gift card, without accounting potentially having to repurchase a sign if it gets damaged or if it gets lost by the people that get awarded the prizes. Let you guys ask any questions. If I wasn't clear with anything, discuss what you would like to see implemented.
I'd rather do it at Home Depot or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, because the whole idea behind it is you're getting an award because your yard looks nice, right? So I feel like if you're giving them a gift card that they could then use to put back into their yard, it's more like we're awarding you for having, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I vote that we look at Home Depot, you can buy $50 increments in that, and they don't charge you fees to do that. Walmart even, because they have the garden center, I don't know what other, I'm just trying to think who has like lawn, you know, specific areas.
The Mooners, and right around the city, that's it. Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, or the nursery.
I'm sorry, if I could have you guys speak closer into the mic for
Sorry.
recording purposes. Thank you.
I like Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, or the Moon Nursery.
Does gift cards?
They do,
They do, okay.
they do.
Maybe
Somebody gifted me one, so.
We limit it to that. So like the nursery, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, because those have lawn and garden centers that they, or specifically, you know, yard related, because, yeah, I feel like if I'm winning an award for a yard, I would want to get something that I could then put back into my yard.
Agree.
In memory of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those ones wouldn't have fees associated, so I still think leaving it at the $50 increment would be okay, because you can purchase them at the $50 increment.
would we want to then limit it to one store? Because our last motion, from what I recall, we ended up specifying only a local business, just in fear or in case that maybe Elkins went out of business or that eventually one of these stores stopped selling gift cards. So that's something that
Maybe we reword it.
we would recommend for you guys to
say
take into
you
consideration.
get a gift card towards your, yard improvement or, well, I don't want to say home improvement, but that's what it is, right? You're improving the value of your home or whatever. So
For
when you-
lawn
maybe instead of
work and
saying
maintenance.
Local gift cards, we say you will be awarded $50 gift cards towards home improvement or,
Yard improvement, yard maintenance.
yeah.
In that case, in case there's activation fees, would you guys, I'm trying to understand which way you're leading to increasing the budgeted amount per gift card. We were just proposing 60. We're not sure if the 60 are going to use for each gift card in case in the future these stores include activation fees, or if the stores close when staff has the time to go purchase them and we end up having to get them maybe at Walmart or other stores depending on what is occurring that month.
So what are you asked? Like our initial last time we met, we wanted to be able to award each quadrant, right? That's $50. That's $200 for gift cards a month if we so choose, right? Because we may not have anyone that's submitted for quadrant 3 or quadrant 4. So then you only would be using $100 that month because you're only buying a gift card for quadrant 1 or quadrant 2.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'll let you guys continue to just kind of discuss and get ready to make a motion. Just to clarify, we are just bringing up the recommendation of maybe limiting the amount of winners instead of 4, decreasing it to 2, based as well on the prior item that we had on budget. As you guys see, we do have limited funds. Our expected revenues for next year are going to be maybe a little bit lower. So that would be up to the board depending as to how much money you want to leave for potential projects of other kind, and maybe just limiting the amount of winners. That's something that staff's recommending, but I can let you, the board will discuss
So
at this
what
point.
if we say two at our discretion?
So,
Meaning that we could do 4 if we wanted to that month.
We were just recommending, or I was recommending decreasing the amount of winners to a tops or max of 2 a month, for the sake of accounting for potential activation fees that are applied when you purchase gift cards. So we would have to increase it to $60 if we wanted to account for that. Again, maybe the $60 won't have to get used, but maybe someday it could happen that gift cards have an activation fee attached to these things. So we want to account for that in our recommendation, as well as to account for expenses in other projects. So we might have something that comes up with Adopt a Spot, or maybe another initiative from the board. So that's why we were proposing or recommending the consideration to limit the amount of winners so that we have more control over our budget, or we have more of a solid estimation of how much we're going to be spending a year on the gift cards, potentially the signs, and things of that nature.
I'm personally not opposed to saying do 2, and then if we get to the point where we have so many, then we maybe need to look at the budget again. I mean,
I'm okay with that. I mean, so are they proposing that we resplit the map too?
who is they?
It's me.
Oh,
So staff.
Oh,
When I
okay.
say staff, it's me. I'm the one that, whenever I get these nominations, goes to purchase the signs. Our vendors like north of Saginaw, it's already Fort Worth. This time around, we didn't have like the special paper for the certificates. Our printer was failing. That's why the UPS printing expense and the mailing expense, it's likely not going to get repeated. We had to mail it out because both residents opted out from attending the city council meeting to get a personal recognition of their award. Most people are opting to get this mailed to them. So those expenses will likely not be there in the future.
Well, I would say, if they don't want to come to the city council meeting to get it, they could come and pick it up.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't think it needs
That
to
way
be.
they don't have to mail it out. Like,
Yeah.
if we can save money there yet. Like if you want your award, it's here. If you don't, okay. You know, I mean,
Correct, yes, that would be something that we'll opt for to avoid that expense. But whenever I was on the route of purchasing the gift cards for the winners of this month, I did do a run-through throughout the Saginaw Boulevard during my lunch break, and I couldn't find any located within it that were local, that weren't like a chain, like Whataburger, et cetera, that could be used outside of Saginaw. So the purpose was to keep it local and keep the usage of those gift cards to local businesses. Unfortunately, for most cases, when they're a small business owner, they don't have the gift card. And I didn't go to the nursery, just time restrictions and just wanting to give out the awards. That's something that we'll probably hit up for the future. But that's why I wanted to bring up the consideration of maybe we approach it a different way so that we give them a gift card that they can use anywhere for the same reasons that you guys were bringing up, so that residents could use it for buying tools, plants, and that it would have a little bit more purpose of the board assisting people that are putting in the effort to beautify their yard. That was the recommendation,
yeah.
to also
Well,
not
I-
limit
and
ourselves to
technically
one
the nursery
business.
Isn't even in Saginaw, the address is Fort Worth. So I think my recommendation is that we change the wording from local gift card to a gift card for yard improvements.
Yep.
Because then we can choose, we can go outside to get that, and then they can go use that for their yard. Because that's the whole point of the yard of the month, is that they have a nice yard, so we want to get back to that.
And up the budget to 60, but limit it to
To 2.
2.
And
That way,
would
that'll
cover any
cover
associated fees.
fees and eliminate the requirement to come to a council meeting, but they can come and pick it up.
Get up, yeah.
Okay. At this point then, once you guys are ready, Melissa or Lena can start a motion and word it as you guys would like to see it noted in the minutes.
Okay, so I move that we change the gift card type to not necessarily be local, but to be something for yard improvement. We'll do a $60 budget for each one to account for any fees. And we'll limit the number of winners to 2 each month for now, with the option to change that in the future if we start getting a lot of nominations. And no requirement to come to the city council meeting, but they can come and pick them up at a city facility to get their certificate and gift card.
Okay.
That's
Be-
my motion.
Yeah,
Did
bef-
did I-
Before the
They
motion,
still are gonna get a certificate saying
Yeah,
they're homeless.
yes.
What about a picture included in that?
but this will eliminate them having to mail it.
By having, Ms. Chairman, to answer Mrs. Goff's question, by having them come and pick up the gift card, I will also have them come and pick up at the same time the certificate of recognition and the sign, and let them know that we can take a picture. Of course, they're still, potentially, they still have the option to opt out from having a picture of themselves be posted on the website. But by having a gift card, that would also incentivize people to actually coming to pick up their certificate and the sign. Before, too, we formalize that motion, just keep in mind, too, that our next item will be the nominations for the month of May, and we do have 7. So we have the motion
But they were
by
all in 1 and 2
Melissa.
anyway.
Do we have a second for that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is this for them? Hold on, we'll get there.
Mr. Chairman, we're ready for you to take us over to our next item.
2C, discussion and action of yard of the month nominations for the month of, is this supposed to be May or April? It says April.
The winners that we selected last month were for the month of April. These are for the month of May. We couldn't meet on May,
Okay.
if you recall, so that's why we're considering right now the nominations from April 16th to May 15th, because
Okay.
that's the nomination window.
Got it.
If we get a chance to meet again this month, I'll bring forward whatever I receive.
Okay.
I want that mailbox. Cute. I like yard 6.
Yard 6 is pretty too. I like yard 6.
My votes are for yard 6 and yard 3. They're just gorgeous.
You waiting on me? Yard 3,
Yeah, I like yard 3.
yeah, I like yard 3.
You like 6?
Is that what you got?
I liked 6 and 3,
6 had all
the purpley.
the like, the mailbox.
And the mailbox. I love the mailbox.
6. 6 is nice. It's very shady and comfortable, welcoming.
So do we say we nominate? Works out there in 2 different sections, if that makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. I saw that too.
While we're pondering this, I want to ask a question. In my neighborhood on Hampshire, there's a beautiful garden, vegetable garden. They've got a very nice yard, but that vegetable garden is phenomenal. Would that be okay to do yard of the month?
I think you should nominate it.
Okay.
We
Is
can
that-
submit them, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to answer your question, right now we have the option for residents to submit nominations, but you guys are, as board members, can also either email me your nomination, or you can use the nomination form that we've created and we have on our website. So if
I
you
did
like,
it
after this
online.
meeting,
It's
you
pretty
can
easy.
send me, all I would need is the address and then a picture of their front yard.
Okay.
I sent a nomination last month. It was really, just because I wanted to try it. And I was walking down the road and I went, ooh, that yard looks really pretty. I don't know who lives here, but I like it, so.
That little garden I've watched for several years, and it always is perfect. You know, it's just well kept, and it apparently produces a great deal of vegetables. So, and they always have
Nominate it.
wonderful yard art, whatever the holiday is, Easter, Christmas, 4th of July, they have the big blow-ups and stuff. It's always fun to drive by there.
I'll be looking forward to your email for the nomination then.
Okay.
All right, so how do we,
Sure. You like 6 and 3?
6 and 3.
6 and 3? It's unanimous. Yard 6 and yard 3.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, I'll let you open the floor for our fellow members to make a motion to nominate.
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we choose 6 and 3.
As our winners for May.
Okay?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
Second.
Let me go ahead and make note of that in our system.
Unrelated to this, can I ask you a question?
How unrelated?
Well, I just want to know have you gotten lots of applications for?
Interest.
I was just thinking that.
So for the month of May, we received a lot, as you can see. Unfortunately, for what we have so far of June, I haven't received anything.
Oh, no, no, no.
Well, we're
I
talking
mean
about for the board.
members. Like
So
people applying
we-
to be on the board?
Yeah, so our new members, or the term for members starts on July. Our next meeting, if it's on July, I anticipate we'll have our new members here once I receive their contact information, but they were appointed on our last city council meeting.
So how do I know if they renewed me or not?
I believe, I would have to look back at my notes, but I'm pretty sure that you are, based on the list that they sent,
Okay.
a member on that board.
Do they email us?
They would be, if they haven't already, sending you a confirmation.
Okay. I
Yes.
just wondered if how many, I mean, because we have
Yeah, you're also welcome
how
to,
many people on our board.
the city council meeting from last Tuesday was live streamed, so you're also welcome to reference the recording,
Okay.
because they did state everyone's names of people that got selected, appointed by city council for the boards.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect. 6 and 3. Ms. Chairman, I'll let you take us over to the next
All right, our
item.
next item is going to be discussion regarding decorative banners.
Okay, I did include an update as to what our last conversations had been for the project of decorative banners across the city. As you may recall, we weren't able to receive an exemption from Encore to continue to place them on their poles, and we had placed a work order to Willow Creeks to have those removed. They, unfortunately, due to weather and other conflicting schedules, continued to delay it and not confirm a solid date with me or staff at Public Works. Based on that, the fact that some of those were holiday themed and they were up, and we didn't want it to continue to reflect in a negative way on the board. Corey Smith, our superintendent of public services, and his crew just kind of used a truck that could, in a way, reach to the banners, and they were able to remove all of them, fortunately. So we did end up saving ourselves the expense of having those removed by Willow Creek Signs. Please note that in the future, if we do revamp this project, staff would be looking into other providers to have more of a more consistent service in the future, for sure. So we had, or the board in the past had discussed the consideration to have potentially our own decorative poles installed. We did look into a quote to have the decorative poles installed. So that would be $7,300 for just the purchase of one pole. Unfortunately, that wouldn't account for the installation services or energizing. We would still have to pay Encore to do that and potentially get permitting, since Encore services public lighting here in Fort Worth and most cities in Texas. Based on the fact, as you guys saw in a previous item, that we have limited resources when it comes to budgeting, staff recommends a different approach to save ourselves the money and potentially reuse the banners that we currently have. Last meeting, there was a question in regards to the plans for McElroy Boulevard. So I have attached the plans in your packet for you to see. We followed up with our city engineers. They're currently still in the design phase, so something could be potentially changed if it is proposed. At this point, the plans would include to have poles that have only one light fixture all throughout the north sidewalk of McElroy Boulevard on the west side, and on the south sidewalk where most of the city facilities are, there will be decorative candlelight style poles. All of those locations will be eligible areas for us to put banners. So we would be able, in the future, when those improvements are done, to reuse the banners that are currently being stocked at our office. The only downside with that is that, again, we're still in the design phase. This is a capital improvement project for West and East McElroy, so this wouldn't be something in the near future. At this point, I wanted to give you guys an update on that, an estimation of how much it will cost to get a pole installed, and let you guys discuss as to if the board's interested on maybe waiting for those improvements to be made on McElroy, and temporarily maybe save some of that funding for other projects, or if you guys would like to still pursue potential light pole installation in a specific place or a different kind of decor.
So one decorative pole costs $7,000.
Was this sourced to more than one company?
So this is a result of a bid that was opened last year. A driver knocked over the pole that we have here in front of City Hall. That was the best bid that the city received. So that's why we went for that vendor. That is the lowest bid that we received. And keep in mind, this is also a 2024 cost. When we reached out to that vendor, unless we move forward with more of a specified amount of location and where a potential banner would be placed, it's a little hard to get like an accurate amount of how much the board would be spending. But given increases on costs really for all services recently, you would likely be looking at a potentially higher cost than $7,300.
Did they find out if the medians on Basswood were even doable, or partially the medians on Old Decatur, or
So,
Longhorn?
based on those conversations, it wouldn't be recommended because of the current layout that we have. There is currently plenty of lighting, and if we were to install our own pole, it would require requesting from Encore for them to pull out one of their poles. It would be a pole replacement instead of a pole installation.
Why do they have to be light poles? Could they just not be a regular pole, or like a different type of pole that you could just put the flag on?
At that point, we would still need to request permitting if it means taking out an object from one of those medians. Or we can be placing it on the right-of-way, but our right-of-way spaces are also limited.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be taking anything out though, you would just be adding a pole to attach.
We would have to be breaking concrete, and
Okay.
we'll have to be careful not to hit any utility lines. We did touch on all these conversations with our city engineer. The only reason I'm coming back with this report is just because based on our conversations when I was discussing this with them and our public works director, in the discussion, we talked about the points that the board had opted for, potentially installing our own poles, maybe not lighted poles, maybe just placing them strategically in certain right-of-ways. Is doable. It would just perhaps not be doable with our budget, if that makes any sense. So for the purposes of strategically using our funds, we can maybe find a way to instead focus our branding in maybe just one area, McElroy. If we want to reuse the banners that we currently have, we could also use what is planned to be installed on McElroy Boulevard.
It just sucks, because McElroy is not the most traveled street in our town, I don't think.
No, but
Right.
unfortunately, the
But
most traveled is
and we can't do anything about that because of DOT standards,
correct.
and that it's owned by.
And Blue Mountain's technically
Is
Fort
it
Worth.
worth doing research on what other cities have done? Or are they all installed on light poles?
Not all cities. I know they're not all.
I mean, right now, what are we limited to as far as where our flags can go?
So per Encore regulations, we can only install them in poles that have one light fixture or candle light decorative poles. So all of the poles that are planned for McElroy in the future would be allowed.
Right, but what other places in the city can we put them right now? Is there-
Basswood is the road that we had considered for prior meetings,
There are some
but when we
single
did a
light poles on
drive-through,
Basswood.
the poles that have only one light fixture are not on the side of the road per se. They're kind of at the intersections, for instance, in High Country Trail.
This one.
There's, I believe, two diagonally from each other, but they're not quite facing the road. They're a little bit more into High Country. And that is something that we were running into when we were doing it at the drive-through, that there is some intersections on Basswood where the poles happen to be nicely aligned and two banners could go, but then maybe like 3-4 blocks after that, you don't really have
Not
them
uniform.
spread out in a way that that people would see them. Because you also want to have them close enough that they become visible to people driving by. Longhorn, Bailey, Boswell, Old Decatur, I mean, they are Bailey, Boswell, or Blue Mountain, sorry, they are roads that we would like to prioritize when it comes to branding because they are the entrance points to the city. But as a thing to consider, our Assistant Director of Economic Development and Community Engagement is currently in the plans of also considering on their end plans for not beautification, but branding of West McElroy. There's other things that can be done aside from banners. Some cities, like Longhorn, when you're driving up into the stockyards, or sorry, Fort Worth, when you're driving up into the stockyards, they have not a banner, but street sign that goes across the whole road that hangs from the poles. That's something that could be done. When we're talking about Saginaw Boulevard, though, you also have to consider that it is a TxDOT road and that most poles, when we did our drive-through, are prior to Minton pretty close to each other. But once you hit the Minton point, they are really spread out, if there's any at all. So again, that's what kept running into when doing, that's what I kept running into when doing the drive-through of the city, that the roads that had more poles had them maybe in just one side predominantly, and then the other side was very scarce.
Yeah.
You got any questions, Lena? Maybe we need to table it.
Bottom line, what is it, it's gonna cost us, what is it gonna cost us per pole, per flag?
Figure $10,000.
Yeah.
$10,000.
That's
I
good.
if we can just, I can think of 10,000 things that we can use our
Yeah.
money better for. than
So
that.
maybe we focus more on McElroy when they get the stuff done, you know?
Table it until,
Yeah, table it until then, until we have a good, I mean, because McElroy is gonna have our library, it's gonna have City Hall,
It's gonna
the
have-
police
it's gonna be
department, the fire
city.
department, you're right.
And
so-
I have no doubt that they will buy up all of these little houses,
they already have.
all the way down to 287.
Mhm.
That will all be,
We can put a pretty
City.
fence around the garden to hide it since the city doesn't really want it there anymore.
so I just can't see, to me, it would be a waste of our money to spend that much money per pole, per flag.
I still think
How
there
many
are better
flags
quotes.
have we already bought?
Dozens.
We
Yeah, there-
currently, to answer your question, we currently have 45 in stock, stored at the Public Works facility from what and this is on our previous package, so I apologize if that's not the right number, but we're looking 45 to 47 in stock. The ones that were taken down were rolled up, and they're also in the Public Works facility. Those could be reused, so long as we keep them rolled up in a place where they won't really be touched by the sun or weather components. They should be here by the time that we are ready to pick up on this project again.
Can we sell those to another little city?
Most of them say Saginaw on them.
Unfortunately, most of them have Saginaw in it, so, or a train and grain branding. So the best way to go would be for us to just reuse them.
Okay.
I say we table it, because if our best bet's gonna be McElroy, the way that they're doing it, and we're gonna have more option there, I say we table it until we get, they get further down into that, until we can actually, it's not worth, yeah, it's a waste of, that's a waste.
Waste of money.
Yeah.
Move.
Can we be assured that those 46, 47 flags are well boxed and well taken care of, that they're not gonna get put in a warehouse and later hauled to the city dump? Can we
Well,
be
I'm
assured of
here
that?
as city staff. They are on our storage closet at our Public Works facility because we don't really have anywhere else to store them. They are not in boxes, they're rolled up in tied together. We don't have the original box, but we can always get that in the future. They will be stored inside though.
Okay, because it might be a couple of years before we pull this back up off the table and discuss doing this street, once the new buildings and the new pavement gets put in and all the hoopla goes, landscaping goes in and stuff,
So I'll make a motion to table the discussion on the banners for,
future.
Ms. Gordon, we wouldn't be making a motion on this one, it's just a discussion, but I'll note it on the minutes.
excellent, whatever we got to do.
Do we have a motion, a second, or say yes?
She said we don't have to have a motion.
Yes, so in discussion items, if you guys express an interest, I'll note it on the minutes. We know that we're tabling this. If I find something else that's different from what I reported today, I'll continue to provide updates. Or if maybe other staff members, as I mentioned, our assistant of economic development, assistant director of economic development, maybe she comes up with a different alternative where KSB could be involved, we will bring those updates to you, and I'll note on the minutes right now.
Or maybe new board members have ideas. If we get new board members too, we can,
Sure.
bring it back out and just ask Tom to be thinking about ideas or whatever.
But yes, we'll note it on the minutes, and you only need to make a motion on items that say action in the title. Ms. Chairman, whenever you're ready.
Okay, 2E, discussion regarding the adopt a spot program and advertisement.
Does EMS Rotary still exist? I guess maybe it was just Saginaw Rotary that went away.
It is a club at school. I will say, though, that I've emailed EMS ASD, so if I don't receive a response as a potential update in the future, we would likely just pull their sign and make it available for other adoptees. I've included a list of the current spots that we have adopted, the ones that are vacant. Last month, member Gov had inquired about the cost to purchase signs to advertise the spots that are available. I've included the cost. It would be $35. That is the cost for one printing a metal sign and installing it in our reusable T-stands, which are also being stored at our Public Works office. This morning, though, I did get notified that had others in store, they got brought to the office, and there is 5 existing signs that are labeled Adopt a Spot with our website that we could use for now, unless the board wants to, by any in any near future or in the future, change the design or wording on those signs. But we do have available signs that will be getting placed within the following weeks on the available spots, so the board won't need to be making any expenses in the near future. But just for your reference, it would be about $35 to print new ones for people that adopt new signs. Our Public Works Director, Randy Newsom, did make it, or request to make it noted during the meeting that he is working on finding new spots that could be used for a program on the east side of the city, closer to Highland Park. Because as you can see by the map that I attached, it's a little bit sparse, or really sparse. There's really none on that side.
Well, that's good. I was just noticing that.
Yeah, so we are hoping that if there's any improvements on the parking lot of Highland Station, for instance, we can add planters in there and make them spots that people can come and adopt. We did receive 2 applications. Both were interested in adopting, in general, like one park or a dog park. Unfortunately, those wouldn't be eligible locations to get adopted. 1, they get already maintenance from the city. 2, it's a general area. It's not necessarily a spot where you can place a sign and claim as a person. Some cities do have the option for people to adopt a yard, or not a yard, sorry, a mile, or sections of a park or a creek. We currently don't have that. Our program is more so reeled towards planter boxes, monumental signs, things like of that nature. So unless in the future the board wants to bring an item to consider a whole restructuring of the program, to consider maybe having adopt a creek or adopt a road, that's something that could be expressed during your discussion. But as of now, these are the spots that we're working with for our program. Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
What are the requirements on the adopt a spot?
So the adopt a spot, and let me go ahead and,
Down at the bottom, eligible adoption areas.
Well, I mean,
Shall we
I'm
put it on the
more like
memo?
what is, when, if someone adopts a spot,
Mhm.
let's say I go back, I'm just hypothetically, go back to my church and say, hey, do we want to adopt a spot for the city and we take care of it? What are the requirements in taking care of it?
Oh,
gotcha. So we currently have a requirement or a disclaimer on the applications for applicants that they would have to do at least 4 cleanups a year.
So for cleanup.
Yes, and there's a form that people can access and download on our website so that if they do a cleanup event and maybe kids are going to be involved, they would have to send us that packet form with the signatures of guardians or kids, guardians of the kids or people involved in the volunteer program so that we protect our end in case of any liability,
Yeah.
for sure. We do have, right now, that is a concern as well, a spot, certain spots are not getting maintained as much as they should. So again, we do encourage applicants during the application process to clean it up at least 4 times a year. And we're requiring for them to send us an event preparation form or the packet, just a form that they fill out describing what they did. But there is a couple of spots that are needing staff involvement just because adoptees are not necessarily maintaining it.
So do they plant new stuff too? Or is it whatever is there and like we just clean it up?
No,
Does that
you
make
can
sense?
some plant
You
new
can
stuff.
plant new stuff,
Mhm.
like flowers or,
Depends on the spot. So for instance, the one in the community center, it's a planter bed, flower bed, that gets maintained by the teacher there. It has an irrigation system. So anytime that she needs us to increase the amount of watering, she calls the Public Works Department. So we work with applicants. One of the applicants that requested a dog park, we're currently working with him. We offer the other available spots, and you know, most of our planters have irrigation systems built in.
that's what I was gonna ask.
So that if they're like, I'm gonna start maintaining this, this is the day that I'm gonna go visit to maybe plant new flowers, can you guys turn on the irrigation system if it's not on already? Most of these planters, we have it, unless it's something like just a monumental sign where we would only require for people to pull weeds, maybe do like weed eating or just trash cleanup around the area.
Okay.
Go by the Joyce Spender Community Building and get out and look at that flower bed. Those
They did a
kids
really
have done
good job.
Wonderful job, too. I'm sorry I didn't bring my phone, I did take pictures last week to show y'all.
Well, cause like I was looking at, like at the
Beautiful
rec
job.
center, the flower beds, are there planters out there? And they have irrigation built in?
The rec center, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that spot used to be adopted by Keith. I believe it does have an irrigation system. I would have to check with Randy, but
The
most of these
marquee
do.
sign on the left of Saginaw Boulevard.
It has
does
an
that one
irrigation
it has
system.
irrigation?
Mhm.
We discussed once last year with Keith that if a group wanted to adopt a spot but couldn't afford plants, that our beautification committee would buy
Help.
plants for them. Does that need to be updated into this now?
I think that that would be an item that we would need to add on a future agenda for you guys to either approve a budget for supplies for Adopt a Spot, or maybe we do a reconsideration of our program in which we, as the board, have tools available. From some Adopt a Spot programs that I saw for other cities, like Flower Mound, they have like a toolkit that adoptees can come and pick up at their Public Works Department for them to use if it's a school club where they don't want to purchase their own tools. So yeah, to answer your question, we can bring this to another meeting for future discussion if you guys want to consider potentially allocating a certain amount of money for purchasing of flowers, etc.
You said you were gonna try to reach out to the Rotary Club?
Yeah, so I've emailed EMS ISD because I don't have a point of contact for just the
Rotary.
teacher liaison or whoever it might be for the club, and I'm waiting on a response. If they don't respond, given that the area hasn't really been upkept and that they're likely over their 1 year limit,
Does it have irrigation too?
I believe that one does,
Okay.
but I'll have to check with Randy.
I'm just wondering.
Some of them
Welcome
do,
sign?
they're just not turned on.
It does have irrigation.
It does. Okay. I'm just getting,
And at that time, when we discussed that, we discussed installing a new welcome sign. Because that one, as the trains have rumbled by, it has loosened that sign.
well, I'm part of the community outreach for our church, so I'm like thinking I'm gonna go to them and be like, hey,
Be a good way to advertise your church.
yep.
Yes, definitely so.
So, because once it's adopted, is the name of the people that adopt it on there?
Yes.
So I was thinking that might be a good, and we have we have at least the 2 vacant ones, plus if the Rotary doesn't,
Yes,
Um,
I think
they're not gonna maintain it anymore, then we'd have 3. I think that might be a good way to create.
Right now, again, Opal and Brian were temporarily removed for park improvements. They'll be placed back. If Randy Newsom, our public works director, lets us know of any new spots, I'll let you know. Applicants also have the option to reach out to the city and propose a spot if they think that there's some, like a place that they would like to adopt that's not part of our list, and we would just work with them to see if it's actually legible or if they would have to find a different location.
Okay.
How do we recommend a new spot?
So if you, as the board member, would like to recommend a spot, you can always email me and send me a picture of the spot that you're referring, and I'll work with our public works director to see if it's something that would be a spot that's sustainable to expect a adoptee to maintain. We also don't want to go like too ambitious where these people are likely only doing a few cleanups a year, so it would be best to give them spots that can endure that kind of sustainment, or that can go for that amount of time without
Well, that in-
touch-ups.
Where I'm talking about is McElroy and 287. There where that cash,
Yeah, that cash store, the
cash
cash
store,
store.
there's a long, narrow area there. That some Texas sage has been growing in. But that would be a beautiful spot to landscape.
You say 287 and
McElroy.
McElroy? The intersection that's here?
Is it facing McElroy or is it facing 287? That side,
Facing McElroy.
that side is.
Uh-huh.
Is it like a ladder sign, or what is it?
And she was just saying it's like a narrow.
It's just a
spot.
narrow plot of land that somebody has planted some Texas sage on that has just gone
Okay.
kept. But it would be a beautiful spot to do a low sign that says welcome to Saginaw.
I moved here recently, so
Stopped it.
I sometimes have to like go and look at Google Maps or drive by, because I do have a hard time just kind of like picturing sometimes when people reference certain points. So I'll look into it and see, because I'm not sure if it's a city right away already maintained by our mowing services. That's another thing too. Our mowing services that we pay for already maintain medians all around Blue Mound and Saginaw Boulevard and right-of-ways. So sometimes those spots that we could adopt, we are already paying to have them maintained. So I'll confirm if that's one of those areas, and I'll let you know if it would be something that we can put out for adoption.
Okay, because it would be a beautiful place to say, welcome to Saginaw Statement. They're low, you know, because we are well kept. Hopefully someday we can say we are well kept on that horrible street there. But that, I and I stop there every day that I leave my yard, I'm at that intersection. And every day I think, gosh, that needs some little marigolds or zinnias or something at the base of that Texas sage. We'll work on it. I don't know, you would have to probably carry water to water the plants.
The adoptees would likely have to carry that. So
Not
it's
many
things
people.
that we
Not
have to consider. As a note, one of the people that applied declined adopting the spots that we have available at this moment because they don't do gardening. So that's another thing. Right now, the spots that we have are geared towards people that are interested in gardening. Cities that do adopt a road, adopt a park, focus the adoption guidelines on trash cleanup. But our park maintenance division and public works already performs those services. So we have to kind of consider all of those components into adding new spots to the program.
Is there any way we can advertise these adopted spots on the website?
Yeah.
And say,
Yeah.
hey, Saginaw residents, we've got these adopted spots. If you have an organization that would take this over, give us a call, you know?
We currently have our website, and we're working on adding the map portion of it as well that shows like available spots in a more interactive way other than just a list, but we do have a spot to advertise it right now.
Okay, because that would really help this adopted spot. And God knows our city needs all the adoption we can get. I'm glad I live here. I'm not complaining.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Nope.
That's just discussion, right? You ready to move forward? We
Please.
Ready?
Yep.
All right.
Yes,
Oh, I think this is.
that was good discussion, thank y'all.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward to the staff reports, 4A, landscaping plan for the new library project.
Chairman, this is just a report follow-up from the prior request. On our prior meeting, I had presented to you guys the current landscaping plan for the library that is expected to be done later this year here in McElroy Boulevard. We had, after that meeting, scheduled a tour, and unfortunately, that did get canceled due to inclement weather. After that, our assistant city manager was out as well, so we had a couple of challenges that interfered with scheduling. Given the current scheduling constraints and the need for construction to proceed uninterrupted, no additional meetings were scheduled after our assistant city manager came back just because of availability and how close we are to the end of that construction project. Based on his update that I received last week, we are approximately 90% done with the landscape installation, as you can also see by the trees that are planted out on the street side, etc. The only things that are left as a work in progress is like the grass sod installation, the detention pond, one planter box that it's in the rear, and ground leveling and final dirt work that are also still pending. If the weather conditions remain favorable, the landscaping installation is expected to be fully completed within the next couple of weeks. So at that point, once it would be completed in the future, the board can decide to make a recommendation for additions, but we wouldn't be able to change anything at this point as landscaping is almost 100% complete. Last meeting, Member Goff did request a list of plans that are currently in use at other facilities. So that is included in our packet for your reference as well as the landscaping plans for other city facilities. And if you scroll or go all the way to the end of that slideshow in your packet, you will see the common plants that are planted throughout the facilities that are used as a way to bring the design all together. Because of land layout and building layout, we do, of course, have have different structures. If a plot of land is bigger, the requirements that are established by ordinance in the city would also change. So that's why some of these facilities will have way more plants than others based on the square footage that they have. But at this point, this is just kind of a report of what we have currently in McElroy for the board to consider or to have in consideration if they want to bring up a recommendation in any future meetings moving forward.
Can I ask a question? On the map down here that we've got of the new library and senior citizens, where is the parking for the seniors?
You're inquiring about parking where, sorry?
Yeah, where is the parking for the seniors?
I believe that there will be handicap parking and senior parking on the front west side of the facility. That's where the senior center would be located.
Okay, is that all this is gonna be?
There's more parking here.
Yes. You could also reference the renderings that were included in last meeting's packet.
Yeah, it's, because this is landscape, so it doesn't have, there's more here and here. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering where all of us old souls are gonna have to park together.
There's all parking all around there too, and there, and there. It's just hard to see since this is just landscaping.
And the lines are really
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No, no questions on it. How much is budgeted for the landscaping of that building?
For that project, out of what was allocated from that bond election, I would have to follow up with Lee. He's the one that oversees the construction of the new library. That wasn't specified. It's a number that we can get you. I'm not sure how much was allocated first and how much they've spent since they're about to be done with landscaping installation. I'm not sure if they had to go over or if they're spending what they planned. But if you like, that's a number that I can email you over if I get that budget. I'm not quite sure if that was something itemized. I'll just have to follow up with him.
I'm just wondering, why I asked that is I was wondering if there was X amount of dollars budgeted, if some of that could be used to update this side of the street to match that side of the street.
I believe right now there's no plans other than just maintenance, what we're spending on maintenance to change any of the landscaping layout for other facilities. Right now, they're focusing on finishing this.
I can
And-
understand that, never mind.
Yeah.
I can understand. It's okay.
All right, we'll move on to 4B, report on owner change of Northwest Plumbing Building, location of the old fire station mural.
This is just a report because nothing is final. I'm currently also working on receiving final updates so that I know what the future would be for this mural. This is a mural that was paid for by Keep Saginaw Beautiful back in 2020. It is located next to the racetrack, that building that's between the racetrack and the Jack in the Box for that mural. And the contract that we currently have it states that it is a 10-year lease and it abides future owners, but we want to clarify with our city attorney as to how much of that contract would apply to any new owners. And if the new owner were to decide to completely remove the mural, if the city would be entitled to receiving compensation for the leftover of the lease period if it were to be terminated early. Again, we're working on that to get that response from our city attorney. In future meetings, I'll let you know if, one, we receive a good response from our city attorney and we're able to enforce this contract with the new owner, or if a different future is expected for the mural. But just wanted to give you an update for you guys to be aware of it in case you hear anything about it or if something were to change from that public art that was paid for in 2020. Any questions?
So, 4C is expenditure fund report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is just our monthly donation report for the month of April and May. What we've received, as you can see, the only expense that we had in May was that of mowing services. In our next month, you'll likely see the other mowing services and maintenance of landscaping that we got charged for in the month of June. And the 188.70 are the expenses for the yard of the month for April. We paid for it in April, but the way that it works is that once I fill out that PICA report, it reflects on their account, so that's when it gets pulled. So just FYI to expect that, to see that in the future. Again, the only reason it was higher this month was because of the mailing and we purchased new signs. So we don't anticipate it being that same amount on our next report. Do we have any questions?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
4D, future agenda items.
Nothing. I got nothing.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, if you guys are ready, you can adjourn the meeting, declare meeting adjournment, and state the time in which we're ending our meeting.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:12 PM.
Thank you.